Leslie Kuster, the founder and CEO of Back from Bali. In her 50s, she turned her small business into a big success, living the life she always wanted. Leslie wants to inspire other women to do the same. Join us as we discuss how to be financially independent, start your own business, and keep a positive attitude. Let's make it happen. So Leslie, let's start very direct. Can you share more about your journey from feeling stuck and unfulfilled to achieving financial independence later in life? And I would love even if you can share your age when everything started. I know you already shared it in the book, so maybe we can just share when everything started.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I've had a business. I've been an entrepreneur for a really long time. I started being an entrepreneur in my early 30s. I'm in my mid 60s right now. And I had an okay business for like 20 years. And when I say okay, it afforded me freedom to wake up when I wanted and to, not go to a job, which was my goal was to not work in a company ever again. That was the reason why I started the business. But after about 20 years of doing it, I started to feel unfulfilled in myself, that I felt that I had been kind of underplaying my abilities and underplaying what I really could accomplish in life. And I was frustrated with the level of income I was making from the business and the level of, top line revenue that I was making from the business. So it was a time where I just was getting really unhappy with myself, frustrated with myself, disappointed in myself. And I started to really question why this is the situation that it's been and become honest about what I wanted to change it to. And it became really clear to me that what I wanted was more money and that I needed to give myself the permission and the freedom to be able to say those words inside myself and outside myself. And once that decision was made, everything changed for me.
It's very interesting to understand the relation with money, because in some way we have the guilt or we have this unworthiness, especially we as women. Some of us, we feel like this unworthiness. When you start to don't feel this, when you start to really, like you mentioned before, embracing that I deserve more. Like, what was the click, actually? I understand it was the frustration, but what was the click?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't so much that I deserve more. It was a complete mindset to think that to change from, it is not my responsibility to create more money. It is my husband's responsibility to create more money, not mine. And once I changed that, because I started to think, why am I thinking that? Like, where is this coming from? Why am I making that assumption? And once I started to change that and be honest about maybe that's not really true, that he's the one who's supposed to be making all the money. And I started to ask myself, how about you, Leslie, making all the money? How about you buying the dream house? How about you, really building our life? And once I started to ask myself that question, that is when everything really started to change for me. So we're stuck in our money stories, and this is where it all begins. It begins with our childhood and what we've been taught about money from our parents or our caregivers. Money doesn't grow on trees. Greedy people are bad people. Make sure you're in a secure relationship, whatever these things are. So my money story was basically the value of a woman is to marry a man who makes money, all right? And that's the value of a woman. So I started to go, okay, this is the way I've seen everything for a really long time, but maybe it's not true. And maybe it's somebody else's value, and maybe it's time to change it. So I began this very deep inner journey, which is where it all starts. It starts from inside. It starts from your mindset. And once that journey started, that's when everything started to roll forward and change. And I was able to bring myself, at that time, my business was doing under 6 figures. So that is under 100,000 a year in top line revenue. And now my business is in multiple seven figures. And I did this starting in my mid 50s.
So how you did that? What was next? First, you realized that basically you can do more than that and you don't have to wait for your husband. And I see that I have a 10-year-old daughter and she likes all these stories with the prince, who is saving the princess. Definitely we have to change all the cartoons for sure, because you see it's all the time this repetitive, even in the cartoons. So what was next for you?
Yeah, I mean, that's it. That's called the Princess Tower, which I refer to actually in my book, that I was in the Princess Tower and many women are in this Princess Tower, basically either waiting to be saved or they're in it now and they're being provided for by other people. And I start in researching this topic, which I became really interested in. I started to interview other women married to wealthy men and how powerless they felt because they didn't actually have control of the money, even though, they're able to drive fancy cars and charge whatever they wanted on their credit card. They didn't actually have the money. They didn't actually know where it was. They didn't really understand the investments. They couldn't transfer, $300,000 somewhere else. They didn't have the control. And I started to really realize that this is a really dangerous place for women to be in because you lose your independence. So once I stood up and I said, enough is enough. I'm not going to be in the Princess Tower any longer. Well, the next thing was you have to start to take certain actions. And I realized that part of the limitation I had on my business is because at that time I had two businesses, not just one. And so the next step for me was realizing that if I wanted to be successful, I need to focus and I need to let one of the businesses go and focus 100% on one of them. And that's what I did.
Can you tell us more about, because I'm very curious about the businesses that basically, and what makes you to let go to the other one?
Yeah. So two businesses, okay? One is called Back from Bali, and that is my business now. Back from Bali is a women's clothing company. I manufacture in Indonesia primarily and design beautiful bohemian style, colorful women's clothes and import it into the US. That was my business then and is now. At the same time, I was running a business called Girl Power because I'm very interested in girl empowerment, women empowerment. And so I was running an after-school program where we focused on body image and, everything to do with empowering young girls. And they were young, like 7 to 13 years old. So what I realized as I was sitting there making that decision about, I knew I needed to focus, I started to realize that when I focused on Girl Power, sales started to go up. I was called by different schools. I had the opportunity to franchise it. And Back from Bali, the women's clothing company, sales would start going down. So I'd run over to Back from Bali, start building that up, and sales of the other. And so there was this seesaw, right? Like in a children's schoolyard, going up and down and up and down and basically going nowhere. It was mediocre because I couldn't get either of those sales to really shoot up because there was no focus. So I realized that. And then the question was, which one will I let go of? And that's where it became very interesting to me.
Why?
Yeah, because my head was going, you should do Girl Power. I mean, Girl Power is positive and spiritual and it helps the world. And you shouldn't do Back from Bali. Back from Bali is materialistic and has to do just with you and making money. You should cancel the Back from Bali. And I went back and forth over this, literally all in this one, I guess it was hour of this decision. And my gut, though, kept saying, drop Girl Power and focus 100% on Back from Bali, which was in complete conflict with what my head was saying. But my gut was saying, drop Girl Power. Mm-hmm. And I decided in that moment, I'm going to stop the girl power. I'm going to focus 100% on Back from Bali. And I swear in that moment, if there were angels in the room, they would be singing like, hallelujah. And I got chills up and down my spine, as if someone in the room was screaming, what took you so long? And I still feel those chills as I tell you this and repeat this again, because it was so visceral. And I knew that was the right decision. And I went with my gut instead of my head. Because sometimes we think something's the right thing to do because we think it should be, but it isn't necessarily is. So we women, we have an ability to connect more with our hearts, with our guts, with our intuition, our emotions, our feelings. And these are never wrong.
What do you think we need to connect more with our feelings? Because I feel it's a lot of noise. Do you have any tools that helps you to do that?
Absolutely. It's called finding out a practice for yourself, a toolbox for yourself where you could connect with yourself. One of the main keys to success is taking non-doing time, taking empty time, or meditation time, whatever you want to call it. Because if we don't take this empty time, if we don't take time to connect with ourselves, then we never can actually feel what the right thing is to do. And what we're doing instead is following like our to-do lists of what we think we're supposed to be doing. This is really critical, actually. This is like one of the most important keys to success, is that we find a practice of whatever that practice is. Meditation has been one of mine. Definitely, I now live somewhere gorgeous. I live near the ocean. So taking those walks on the beach, like regularly, getting outside, breathing, and really like scheduling out real time to empty yourself is incredibly important. And I just want to clarify that that does not include vacations. Vacations are great. They're wonderful. It's a whole other thing you experience in a vacation. But I'm really talking about doing the work where you really connect with something that quiets you down, where you're able to start to feel who you are. Writing, journaling is another great example.
I want to move a little bit back on the moment when you decide to basically, I don't know, have the princess story where you need to take back your power. Because I know that there are so many women who they have this fear that they cannot make it and what will happen if, and so on. What will be an advice for those moments? I know that, and we will dive more deeper into your amazing book about that. But for you, back in time, when you started to really take your courage to really prove, probably first to yourself that you can make it, what were some of the advices that were our key points that helped you to move on?
I'll be really direct. You're going to die, right? Everyone listening, you're going to, no, really, this is really important. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Okay, time is going. And your fears, I'm scared, I can't do it, I'm going to fail, whatever. You have to really ask yourself, how are you going to feel when you're dead or almost dying and you didn't take these actions? And I really think this is something we need to ask ourselves on a regular basis. You know, when are you going to do it? Like a small example of that, I've been living in Switzerland for many years. My husband is Swiss. And even though this is not a life and death example I'm about to give you, it is an example. And I really wanted to return back to the United States. It was something I really wanted to do. And we had a really comfortable life there. My husband worked. I had my business, beautiful apartment, friends, the whole shebang. Living in Switzerland is pretty easy, actually, lifestyle-wise. But I wanted to come back to the U.S. And I really had to ask myself, do I want to die in Switzerland? And the answer was really no. And then you have to ask yourself, so when is the right time? Is it this month? Is it next year? Is it in 5 years from now? So there is never the right time. And that's what everyone needs to understand. There's only time going, all right, and losing time. And so if you are feeling dissatisfied on any level, that is your soul talking to yourself. That is the whispers inside your heart speaking to you. And you need to take action on them because time is going and there's nothing to lose except your dreams. And they will go unless you take action.
Oh, such a beautiful one. It reminds me a lot about, I did the teacher training yoga, and the last position is Shavasana. And basically each of the asanas has a story behind. And this one was that the king will die in 7 days and what he's doing. And the teacher asked us, if you have 7 days to live, what you are doing with your life? And everyone around me, I will move to South Africa. I will do this. I will go to surf. Totally different than their life. And I was like, do we really need to wait for a paper from the doctor who is telling us you are dying in 7 days to really do our life, to really follow our dream? Or what are we doing? So I'm really happy that we might ask this. It's so important to have it somewhere written on the wall. Moving forward now to the decision to take back to Bali. So you decide to take back to Bali. As far as I understood, it's an e-commerce business.
Yes. It's yes.
Where can we find the products and how do you learn to do all this? Because it's very complex.
Yes, it's back from Bali, and it started a long time ago, back when, the sales were not so great. And in the 90s, sometimes I was able to start bringing the business online, which they didn't have back then. And then in the late 2000s, I brought the business onto Amazon.com. And that's when sales started to really explode. And then, of course, they really started to explode 10 years ago or so when I made that big decision. So this business is an interesting business because I started it just from my love of the beautiful clothes that I found in Bali, Indonesia, like the batik, which is a handicraft of Bali, the colors. I love Bali. I love the people of Bali. I love the clothing there. And so it was a wonderful way of going to Bali, spending 2-3 months a year and bringing the clothing back into the US and selling it on Amazon and on my own website. But the business has become much more complicated, and Amazon has become quite a challenge to maneuver and really be successful on. So I've really become a specialist now in e-commerce and a specialist in managing Amazon product-based businesses. So my skill set has just skyrocketed. It has gone from, finding beautiful clothes and manufacturing beautiful clothes, which is why I started the business, to that, plus really managing inventory and inventory software, overseeing pictures, videos, working with influencers, advertising, all of this stuff. So I've learned a huge amount in this business.
What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced when you started your e-commerce?
Do we have a few hours? Listen, not even what were the challenges I faced when I started it. How about the challenges that I've had in the last 2 weeks? And so this so this is the point of business, is that everyone needs to really understand that you need to get used to failures and setbacks. So this is a huge part of business. And anyone who tells you, or anything you see online, that, you sell millions and whatever, making it look easy, is really not true at all. It's not true. Having a business is like getting a PhD, right, in entrepreneurship and in self-development, because you, as the owner, as the CEO of your business, needs to pivot and change and grow and deal with big problems. I am dealing now with, especially because of what's happened the last few years, increase in costs of everything, because I'm shipping in from UPS, increase in Amazon fees, just the whole nature of the business is changing in general. And prices, where customers would pay a certain amount, they no longer will pay that amount. There's so much more competition. So you either go, okay, I'll keep doing what I've been doing, and that doesn't always work. You have to start bring in new products that are different for maybe different countries. So I'm now expanding even outside of the country that I've been manufacturing in into other countries to find other products as well. Working with influencers, something I never did years ago. So you have to constantly be changing.
But is it something that if you will go back to the beginning, you would do it different?
Yeah, 100%. So what I would do different is what I did 20 years later. That it took me, that it took me these 20 years.
Now we take a pen and we are taking notes.
Yeah. And what that is getting help, is hiring someone. I don't mean just any coach. I don't mean just a life coach. I mean, you hire someone who is where you want to be and was where you are now. So the steps that I took in my business was really wanting it, which we spoke about, focusing in on it. And then the next step really was becoming an incredible learner. I call it a ferocious learner. And it was during that time that I found my consultant, Lisa Satora, who I still to this day work with 12 years later. So if you really want to take a big, huge shortcut, you really need to work with someone who can guide you on your entrepreneurial journey. And this is critical. And this is something I would have changed. But at that time, I didn't even know there were consultants. I didn't really know anything at that time. And of course, you don't know what you don't know, which means you don't know why you need someone, but you do. And that would change everything once you get someone very good to work with.
7 keys to 7 figures. Why you decide to write the book?
After I brought the business to multiple 7 figures, I started to ask myself, like,
when did this happen? When was the moment when you switched it into 7 figures, your business?
It took 4 years. It was it was basically, it went from like 50,000 to the next year 100, 200, 400, 750, and then it went over 1 million 4 years. So it was about a 4-year process that took. And when I, after getting into the multiple 7 figures, I really was asking myself, like, how in the world did I do this? Like, I don't have a business degree. I sell women's clothing. I don't even know how to sew. I don't know anything about patterns. Like, how did I do this? And I've always been interested in self-development, girl power and all the topics we spoke about in girl power was interesting to me for my own self-development. And I started to write and do some workshops as well for women entrepreneurs. And I started to really reflect on how this was done. And I knew that I wanted to get it down into a course or into a book. And there started the journey of writing this book. The book is for women entrepreneurs who feel that they basically need a kick in the butt, who maybe think that they can't do it, or they think they're too old to do it or too young to do it, either way, but that you can do it. And the keys in this book teach you how.
It's so funny listening to you now. In a way, you are kind of bringing the first business, which probably it's coming from the heart, you are bringing it back with this book.
That's right.
So you didn't give up basically on that too, exactly. Which I love it. And I want to thank you so much for doing that for us, because it's so good and so important. Can you share us one key out of 7?
Yeah, I've already shared with you a few of them already, but let's just talk about back to, I would say, becoming a ferocious learner, which I touched on with getting a consultant. So it's really important to remain humble, okay? That no matter where your business is at, if it's doing 20,000 a year, or if it's doing multiple 7, 8, or 9, not 9 figures a year, that you always remain humble, that you still don't know what you don't know, and that is constantly learning. So something besides getting a consultant that's so important is getting into other women entrepreneur groups or mastermind groups, networking, and ideally mastermind groups. And a mastermind group is a small group of other women entrepreneurs. I like working with women only. I don't like men in any of my networking groups. It changes the dynamics there. But getting that support is really critical. So, joining women entrepreneur networking groups that are live and that you can physically go to, not just going online, is something I really suggest.
How much time you are dedicating now to the Back to Bali, and how much you are dedicating to empowering women?
Well, let's see. I would say in my day, I don't start working for anything until 12, and I usually go for 4 or 5 hours. And in that, I'll combine the two. So it's mostly on Back from Bali because that is still my business that I'm continuing to build. And then maybe it's, a smaller amount of time. My goal really is to influence and inspire women. I'm not actually consulting or coaching. I like to give out free information, except for the purchase of the book, which is like not very much. And that's really my goal, is to just help and inspire other women entrepreneurs. And at the same time, I am building my business.
And I think it will be great to suggest to our listeners now that you are offering information for free on your website. If you can share more about this.
Yeah, definitely.
Said it's just an information that you just can do a click. You just click and you get it.
You just get it. So what I suggest is go to my website, which is my name, lesliekuster.com. And definitely sign up to get the resource list. So the resource list, I call it the $1 million resource list. It's like I opened up my Rolodex and I just shared all of my contacts with you. So, some of my coaches, the best investments, in terms of coachings to get, best books, best podcasts, all of that stuff. So definitely check that out. And also on my website, there's lots of others, blogs and lots of other information. Also, I started a live stream show, and the live stream show is called She Rises, and we're doing it every other Wednesday, where I'm interviewing other women entrepreneurs. The reason I'm doing it is because as I started my own journey of writing and speaking and being on other people's podcasts, it took me a while to get there. And I felt for a really long time very invisible and not seen, that I had a lot of information to share and no one was asking me to share it. So now that I have more of what's called a platform, I want to give other women entrepreneurs an opportunity to share their businesses, their stories, and be able to live stream it out there. And it's called She Rises. And you could find it on my Facebook, She Rises, on LinkedIn, on YouTube under Leslie Kuster.
And I will make sure to tag all these information that we make easier for our listeners. You know what I'm wondering? Recently, I started to realize the difference between the feminine energy and the masculine energy, because I was very much in the masculine energy of doing things and less on the creativity part. How do you deal with those? How do you manage to play with those?
Yeah, that is a great question. It's the challenge we all have, isn't it? That we're on this doing, and not really being enough, and not really. That's why you have to take that time. That's why you need some kind of skill set, almost like you can open up a bag of skills and take them out. And that bag of skills is self-development. That bag of skills is spirituality, is what it is. And to find what is the place, the area around your home, the experience, whether it's writing, whether it's just meditating, whether it's walking, that will bring you that connection to inside yourself, so you can just dial it down. Something we have to remind ourselves of doing. One thing that I do now, which I didn't used to do, is a whole other way of dialing things down in my head, which is pickleball. So I've become a pickleball nutcase. It's the fastest growing sport in the world, actually. And I play 6 days a week. All right. So this is what I'm doing almost every morning. And that really balances out because it's so physical. You're so in your body and breathing and you're outside.
What is exactly, can you tell me? What is really doing the sport pickleball?
Okay. Pickleball is a combination of tennis, racquetball, and ping pong. So it's a game that is played with doubles, and it's like half the size of a tennis court, even a little bit smaller. And you play with a much lighter ball than a tennis ball. It is so much fun. You're giggling and laughing and sweating and running and learning skills too. It's not so easy to do. So that's what it is.
I can see how much you are enjoying it. I can already be there. I know that we can get a lot of information for free on your website with all your recommendations, but I have a very short questions for you, which are very much related with some of them, but I'm very curious. What was the best advice that you received for the business part and for your personal life that you would like to share with us?
You know, for the business part, the best advice I ever received was from my consultant, and it was don't fall in love with your product. All right. And that was a really tough one. And for anyone listening who's in a service-based business, it goes to that too. Don't fall in love with your program. And what that means is really look at the numbers, like get intimate with your income statement, which is your income and your expenses, and really start to, instead of thinking, oh, that program's great, that product's great, oh, you really see the numbers of those products or the program to determine really, is it really serving you this? And if it isn't, to let go of it. So that's probably the best advice I've ever gotten. On a personal level, I don't know if this was the best advice. It's just something that I've always known. I was 17 years old when this happened, and that is I had a tragedy that happened, which is that my boyfriend at the time was coming over to pick me up in the car, and he had a car accident, and he very sadly died. And thank you. And this completely changed my life. I was 17 years old. And I remember being with my mom shortly afterwards and saying to her, and I don't know to this day where this came from, because back then I was 17, it was a long time ago. I didn't hear it on any podcasts or anything else. I said to her, you can't control what happens in life. The only thing you can control is your attitude towards it. And so I knew at 17 that was where I can control things. So that's what I would really say is my best advice is shit happens, and it happens to everybody. And we don't want to become victims of it. We can't control it, but we can control how we respond to it and how we grow from it.
Oh, this touched me so strong because my life is before and after losing my father in a car accident. Mm-hmm. I understand you so much, and I understand exactly what it means to just really stop the hamster wheel and focus on what is really important in life. So, unfortunately, I don't know, human beings sometimes they need to suffer to really wake up. I don't know, at least some of us. I don't know I can talk about me. It's just something that it's I understand.
Yeah, I'm sorry about your dad.
Thank you. It's the most sad moment in my life, but as well the most beautiful because it woke me up and made me who I am today. So I'm trying to focus on the second part more than on the first one. What is your favorite book?
Oh my God. In terms of like a business book, it's the old classic, which is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So that it's dated. There's a lot of dated language in it, but if you want a mindset book, that is by far my absolute favorite book. And besides that one, I read a lot, and I read with Kindle, which means I never can see the cover of anybody's book any longer. So I can't even remember what I'm reading. But I just do read a lot. I have a lot of novels going, and also business books going at the same time. I would say my second favorite business book is called Profit First by Mike Michalowicz, that I highly recommend in terms of learning how to manage the money that comes into your business. This was a game changer, changed my whole business, is practicing Profit First.
Leslie, is it something that you will never say no to? I don't know. Whatever is coming into your mind. Something that you will never say no. Maybe it can be a dish. Maybe it can be a trip. I don't know. Something that you will never say no in life.
Like, can you give me an example of what you mean?
Like, for example, no matter how much I'm on a diet, I will never say no to a dessert or whatever. It's something that makes you happy at the end of the day. Something that it's your biggest passion out of the business part, I would say.
You mean something that I want to do every day, or I would
something that you would love to do every day, but out of the business. I want to really know more about the business part.
I'm piano. So music, music is like and also I'm going back into piano and back into music and improvising. So that's something I'm doing more of. Pickleball, as I mentioned to you as well. So those are my two passions these days.
Again, you see, piano is going into the feminine energy, to the creation part. So it's probably helping you to combine it. I'm getting closer to the end, but because we are diving pretty much in the last period into the beauty topics, I would like to ask you if you have any favorite beauty products or beauty tips that you would like to share with us. Amazing, by the way.
Beauty tips. Okay. I mean, this is the most important one of all, is sleep. Okay. Because it's really, no matter what you put on your skin and whether you're spending $100 or $300 or going for facials, none of that matters whatsoever unless you get a lot of sleep. I recommend 9 hours a day. So I'm a big believer in sleep. And then, of course, the second is food, all right? It's nutrition, healthy nutrition, and healthy water. So women, especially, we need protein. I'm a big believer in increasing protein with fat. And this is really important. Nutrition is another love of mine. I just studied it my whole life. And so it's really important that we increase protein and we increase fat. So don't be afraid of healthy fats. Healthy fats are things like nuts and seeds and olive oils and avocados, but I also love butter. Healthy fats, anything that really increase your fats. Never take low fat anything. Don't ever take low fat milk or low fat anything. You want to increase your fats, actually, and you want to increase your protein, and then obviously fruits and vegetables and all of that stuff. So those are beauty tips. Those are beauty tips that everyone can control and you don't have to buy products for.
I know we were touching this topic in a few parts of this discussion, but I would love, as at the end of our conversation, to the ones that they are daring to dream again. They are in that moment when they are like, okay, I'm ready. What will be your advice to everyone who is listening now?
Yeah, that this is your life. Really, it's such a precious, precious life that we just don't ever know what's around the corner for any of us, even though we think we might, but we don't. And it is so much fun to go after one's dreams and actually accomplish them and do them. And that everything is really possible. I know we're always told, oh, it's all possible. You can do anything you want. And once I changed my mindset and I started to study, which I did, the manifestation and really creating the life that you want to create, I realize that actually this crap is true. It's not just some airy fairy things that I heard of. It actually is very, very true. It's really all possible. The only thing stopping is your own mind thinking it isn't. Anytime you say yeah, but, well, that's you stopping it. Okay, there is no yeah, but. It's either a choice to do it or there's a choice to don't do it. But there's no yeah, but. And we just need to start to get honest with ourselves and honest that we're stopping ourselves from dreaming big, and we don't have to.
Thank you so much, Leslie. It was such a pleasure, and it was really an honor. Thank you for taking time for us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode. As we wrap up, let's reflect on the 3 key takeaways. Number 1, believe in yourself and seize control of your financial destiny. Don't let societal norms dictate your relation with money. 2, embrace a mindset of continuous learning and don't hesitate to seek guidance when necessary. And the last one, pursue your passion and never abandon your dreams. Remember, the power to transform your life lies within you. Take charge today and initiate the changes you desire. Thank you for tuning in, and until we meet again, keep dreaming big and striving for greatness.